Welcome back to another episode of the PokeStop podcast. I'm your host, itspraww, joined by my co-host, as always, Thad Wand. Thad, how are you doing on today?
We're doing pretty good. How about you?
Thad, I'm going to be honest, you're lying to the camera, and that's okay, because we both just got back from the San Antonio Pokemon Regional Championships, where, I'm going to be honest, we had some really amazing barbecue. We got to hang out with a lot of friends, a lot of locals. The barbecue was amazing. Shout out to, I think it was 2M Smokehouse. No, it was 2M. I believe it was 2M Smokehouse in San Antonio. Definitely in like a not ideal neighborhood, but like honestly, the barbecue is amazing. So if anyone else out there, like 2M, shout out 2M. I mean, just 10/10, no notes. I mean, just absolutely amazing. Probably the best barbecue I've ever had in my life. And I'm like a huge barbecue guy, so that was like honestly like getting like real deal Texas barbecue was like on like my bucket list. So I was really excited this weekend. We were able to do that. But Thad, I played Raging Bolt. You were on Turbo Roaring Moon. I went 1-4.
Yes.
I think you went, what was it, 1-3 with 3 ties. Yep. And 2 of them were Guardy, right? Like
Crazy.
You just had no fun whatsoever. And I had a similarly unfun time. I played my first round against Drago. We were able to win that because Bolt just kind of dismantles Drago. I don't understand where these like Drago players are getting their favorable Bolt matchups from. I genuinely need to know. Like the only time I've ever lost to a Drago deck is like either I have like Fez start pass and I get donked by like a crazy Radzard 5 energy nonsense, or like I can't gust around the Cleffa turn 1 or something like that. But like I feel like if both decks are playing optimally, you win every time. But anyway, we beat Drago round 1. And then round 2, I found a deck I've only ever seen on ladder, and I kept telling myself no one would play this to a regional. There's no way anyone would play Venomoth Frostlass to a regional. But apparently, Thad, someone played Frostlass Venomoth to a regional. I don't know if you knew that or not. It was super fun for me. I had such a fun time playing against it. I'm not tilted about it still, so I think everyone should quit saying in the comments how tilted I sound over it, okay?
They don't do that.
But it's fine. It's fine. We're moving on. I also played Palkia. I played a Snorlax player, which, Thad, can I tell you a story, Thad? Can I tell you a little fiction? Little story about how I ended up in a town called Bel Air? You really don't. You really don't have a choice. I mean, I guess you could like walk away, go to the bathroom for like 3 minutes while I yap about how mad I am about this. So I played against Snorlax. And I swear, every time I play a Snorlax guy at a regional, the pre-match like banter we have back and forth is so nice and so positive, and I'm so excited to play against this guy. Like this person always seems like a normal person, and then they flip over a Snorlax, and it's like I'm watching Star Wars, and like it's episode 3, and Palpatine just like turns into Palpatine. Like he gets all wrinkle-faced. He starts shooting lightning out of his hands. He's killing Jedis left and right. And that's just how it felt. You know, and it was really annoying because I did make a mistake. All right. I played Iono. I had 5 prize cards left. I drew 6 prize cards off of my Iono. I drew the extra prize card. I did do like 2 actions. I did a teal dance. And then I also vesseled, but I didn't search the deck yet. I literally picked the deck up. I just turned it, showing a card that was in my hand from the Iono. So I have not been given new information as of yet. We called the judge. And I was like, you know, having judge experience myself, I was like, I know this is a 2 prize penalty. This is a repairable board state. We can walk this back to where the missed action was taken. And like this guy was just like very insistent for some reason that like there should be a more severe penalty. And I don't understand why. Thad, do you think you have any idea as to why a Snorlax player would be like, I don't know, maybe fishing for a more severe penalty?
Yeah, and I mean, and I think we're going to get into this a little bit later in the podcast too. But I feel like it goes to like this in-game etiquette of like, you know, the board state is both players' responsibility, and if one person just lets someone continually break the board state, then they're kind of just fishing for that good old cheesy game win.
Yeah, and it was really weird because he was playing against Bolt, which I feel like they have a pretty favorable matchup, right? Like the only way I can win that is if I can flood my board before you can hit a flute. And I started Squawk.
Yeah.
He had the trap. Like he had the guy you strand. And then I only have 3 switch cards. So like, unless somehow you just let me motivate for 15 turns without playing a penny, like I just don't understand how you don't win that. But yeah, it was just really weird. It really just like really made me very annoyed by the entire situation. That like you're doing this and like, but whatever. But moving on, my last round I did play against a Mimikyu Cornerstone wall deck. So I played 3 control decks in 5 rounds. So I had a 60% control match rate, I guess. And I think control
crazy.
I think Pidgeot control was the only deck to make the graphic, and it was like, I don't even know if it was on the graphic, but I think it might have been on like the best of the rest, like the back, like the 7 through 12 graphic, and I think it had like 4%, and that was the only control on the graphic. So I was just like, all right, cool. It kind of like really put me in a negative headspace the rest of that weekend too, because it was like I think like most players, we spend so much time, we do all this work, we do all this testing, we do all our meta planning, and I think sometimes it just goes to hell. Like you can do all the testing you want, you can figure out your routes in every matchup, but at the end of the day, a lot of it just comes down to who's sitting on the other side of the table and what card they flip over.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the day one meta breakdown, I mean, you just got real unlucky. And I mean, to be completely like, even in the best of the rest, there isn't a control that shows up.
Really? Okay, so it wasn't even on there at all. Okay. So I know we did through the tournament,
we
did have a couple. I think there were 2 controls in the asymmetrical cut. There was James Kowalski, All Out Blitzel. He's a big guy on the online scene. Especially like that guy's doing like limitless events like every day of the week. This dude is doing limitless stuff. So like shout outs to him for like being kind of like just a dude grinding and just like really putting in that time. And he only plays control. Like he is like I only play Bolt. He only plays control. Like so like shouts out to him for making that run. There was also Grant Manley playing Pidgeot control at 9th place. So both of them were in the asymmetrical top cut. But yeah, we didn't really. There were actually 3 control decks. There was also the Snorlax Stall that made top 8 as well. Yeah. Who was like also kind of like an unknown player. I'm gonna definitely butcher the name. Summit Kukadapu. So like I guess shout out to him. Yeah, like I didn't know who this person was, and I know like talking to other people, like no one had ever heard of this guy. So like really cool to see like new-ish players kind of starting to make a name for themselves. And we actually pulled his Limitless profile really quick. His first finish was actually October of 2023 at the 2023 Sacramento Regionals with Gardevoir back a little over a year ago. So, you know, you got to give it to a guy kind of making his name, you know, making himself known with a lot of different decks. I saw Guardy, I saw Ancient Box, and now Snorlax. So obviously someone who has that ability to really pilot a couple different decks and get to those day 2s and here with his first top 8 finish. So shouts out to him. Thad, was there anything you saw in kind of the top 16, top 32 lists? Anything that really surprised you was there or wasn't there?
No, not really. And I mean, like the matches that I played during the tournament, like kind of are a little bit representative as to like what the meta was.
Yeah.
I started off against an Archaludon, which made the day 1 graphic, so that makes sense.
Sure.
Moved on, played back-to-back Guardies. Played against the Lugia, beat a Regidrago. So I mean, like I won the matches I was supposed to win. The ties. I mean, like Gardevoir's it's not a win. It's not an auto win matchup for me. It's typically pretty good. I'm pretty practiced into it. But man, when you're I mean, man, I don't think I ever took more than 3 minutes a turn. Other than the first turn for setup, like, moon turns are like Sada attack.
Yeah, Sada dark patch.
Or boss.
Don't do much.
Yeah, I draw when I can draw, and I support her, and I attach, and that's basically my turn every game.
The most.
So like hitting the 3 ties like straight in a row felt super bad. I mean, 2 of them being it was lost tie. The early tie came from the Archaludon, and then the Guardy tie felt really bad because I had game. I just needed like literally one more turn to get game. Same with Lugia. Lugia I played my second to last round. I was 1 turn shy. It was on 6 to 2 prizes, and I literally just, if I wasn't turn 0 in times, I would have won. So yeah. So I mean, the meta shook out the way I wanted it to, and I just didn't hit the fast playing players.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, the only thing that really surprised me was a lot more Snorlax than I thought I would see. There were only 2 in top 32, but like for a deck that wasn't even in the top, under 2% meta share to have 2 in the top 32 and 1 in top 8. I think is a little surprising for me. Healthy amount of Drago, which you would kind of expect. Not a ton of Bolt either. I think it was just the 1 Raging Bolt, despite about 8%, I think, of the meta share in the entire tournament. So that's a little surprising, but kind of expected when you see that much Charizard and Gardevoir. I think those are traditionally pretty tough matchups for Raging Bolt, and they're definitely like one of my more difficult matchups, and definitely matchups you can win as a Bolt player, but like definitely requires really kind of a hot start to like thin the deck to where when they do use their hand disruption to make sure you can get out of there and just find the pieces you need to make the big combos to make you win the game. Definitely really tough. But I think something we should talk about though is kind of like how to act and how to prepare yourself and to be a player at a regional tournament. Because I think like as the game has really exploded, I mean, I remember back in 2018, 2019, when I was first like really diving in and having like some success in the competitive scene, you would have like, I remember 1,000 people at a regional was a big deal. And like, we're now, if there's under 2,000, we're like, damn, why is no one playing the game anymore? Like, and this one had over 2,400 masters. I think it was 3,200 total players in the trading card game. So like that is like, I think it's great for the game, but I think for a lot of players, like I think we're going to continue to see more and more people, this being like, hey, this is my first regional. And I think something that a lot of players need to do is you need to have that accelerated like internal clock, is like, because when you play at at your locals in a cup and a challenge, you're playing 30 minutes best of 1, but when you go to a regional, when you go to these large events, you're playing best of 3, 50 minutes. So I think something players don't do nearly enough is, if I'm not going to win a game, there's no point in playing this out. Like, let's scoop this. Let's go to game 2. If you don't have a clear win condition, I think it's totally fine. And kind of something you should do just for your own longevity in the round to avoid those ties. Because I think an early tie, it kind of puts you in that bracket, in like that pool with a lot of those newer players who aren't playing very quickly, and kind of set yourself up to be in a situation where ties are going to affect you a lot more.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that like it's like this like level of and we were talking a little bit before, it's a little bit of like this like professionalism, a little bit of understanding where you're at in the context in which you're playing. You know, people are there not just to have fun. You know, I mean, I'm there to have fun, right? Like I'm
Right.
having fun, but I also want to be like respectful. I want games to conclude. I want matches to conclude.
Yeah.
I don't want to be trapped in. I mean, like when I hit my third tie, I'm like, well, my day 2 run is over. So like at this point, I'm gonna play one more, get a win, and just go home. Like it just not even worth. It just takes a wind out of your sails. And I know for some people it might be their first regional, might even be some people's first tournament. So I think that understanding the etiquette of how tournament structures work,
yeah,
understanding what's on the line and how to play, all big factors.
I agree. And like it's kind of hard, I think, for both of us to kind of put ourselves in the shoes of a new player, just because we both have been around Pokemon for so long. But I think it is really important that like as a new player, and I think we see this at our locals, just seeing that we do have like some newer players who've come into the game in like the post-COVID boom of Pokemon, where like, and I see it with a lot of our newer players is they come at like they're very used to live, they're very used to the online client where you don't need to have the internal clock, like there's the built-in clock. So I think like for a lot of players, it's creating that sense of urgency within yourself.
Yeah, it's because they don't have like the visual cues to tell them, hey, I need to click this ability, right? Like I can't like you're making decisions kind of more on the fly versus like you're not like getting a screen to tell you what decisions to make and what options you have available to you. So I think that, you know, those decision qualities and those decision, when I'm talking about decision quality, you know, time is a factor in that. So I think that we need to really take a big step back as a community and sort of teach our new players, if you have a friend or if you have like a family member or somebody who wants to get into the game, get them to a local league first, get them familiar with tournaments, how tournaments work, the structure, where to sign on the match slip. Man, when my like third opponent looked at me and asked me how to sign the slip,
that's kind of crazy.
Oh man, I was like, we lost.
It's also kind of crazy because like on the slip it tells you where to sign. There's a thing that says initials here.
He's like, yeah, I mean, like I just got like he was a good player. I'll give him that. Like he played Guardy, and man, it just like we just ran out of time, and we were running out of time, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna give it to you, dude. Like, I don't want to keep going down the tie bracket route, so like I just conceded. You know, he definitely could have gotten the game, but I wasn't gonna play it out. I'm like, okay, I just want to move on.
Yeah.
And man, just hit me with where do I sign on the slip when you win? What do I do?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, brother. Like, oh.
Yeah, and like
I don't even know. Like I don't even want you to win now.
Yeah, and like the other thing I don't want this to come across as like the new player is like, oh, the boomers are yelling at me, or like, you know, like these old heads are yelling at me, like chill out, Unk, kind of like energy. And like we're not doing this because like we want to win. And like obviously everyone wants to win, right? Like no one goes to a tournament and be like, I really hope I go 0-9-0. That'd be really fun. I just want to get stomped all day, but like we want people to have fun. And like no one walks away from a tie unless it's like an auto loss or something. But like 95% of situations when both players tie, they walk away not feeling good about it. And like it feels like a loss. And like that's why like it's just like it's really it's very discourteous to like not play efficiently. And like another thing too is like it's really hard to like gauge when to call your opponent for slow play. So I think also like I think judges should do a better job as well at like watching the matches. And like I know at pretty much every regional I've gone to this season, like I have actively locked eyes with a judge when my opponent isn't playing at a correct pace. And like the judge just did nothing.
Yeah.
Cuz it's like it's very awkward to be like, actually my opponent's playing really slow. And it's like sure they are, but like I'm also not trying to be a dick to my opponent who is obviously like either new or just not that good at the game yet, and like it's such an odd like situation to be in.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the position I found myself in pretty constantly was you know, like I will call slow play if it's malicious, you know, if it's like very much in the way of like okay, like this is a bad matchup for you, you got a game on me, and now all of a sudden a deck search is taking like 30 seconds
for sure.
Like, yeah, I'm gonna call somebody over, but like nothing was malicious, and like I'm not saying these players were doing anything malicious during the tournament. But I mean, like you kind of have to like let people play it out. You can't be ruled sharky, but you also can't just let people like take 5-minute turns on you. So like, you know, I notified a judge halfway through one of my matches, and I was like, hey, like pace play is a little bit off. And I actually had that same judge check up on me like a couple matches in a row just to keep an eye on the pace of play. And I was really like, I was happy that they did that. It just sucks because the one match they were really dialed in on was my match where I just absolutely stomped a Regidrago. I was also the only person in the tournament at 3 ties.
That's crazy. That is actually like
kind of impressive. Yeah, because I did not, when I was looking at the stats page, I was the only person at 3 ties. I was the only person at 0-1-3.
Yeah. That is
and I got paired into a what was it, like a 1-1-2, I think is what I got paired into.
Wow.
So somebody who still could have made it, but like,
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, like just overall, I will say, play faster, play better, think efficiently.
Yeah, and like if you're a newer or a slower player, don't play Guardy. Don't play Stall. Play a deck that like suits that gives you the best chance to win, 6 out of 9 rounds in a long day, and also realize this is a long day. I think also another thing players like, just like as far as like preparing yourself for the regional itself. I think like, especially for me this season, like I made this mistake in Toronto, and like, I know me and Thad and like other people locally I've talked to about this is like, I'm never staying in an Airbnb for Pokemon again. Like, I think setting yourself up for success, and when you stay in that like hotel that's near the venue, like, yes, you're going to pay a little more, but if you're able to do that and you're able to like, have a good bed, have a nice shower, have the hotel with a nice hot breakfast, even if it's just like, shitty powdered eggs and like sausage and Texas shaped giant Belgian waffles because they ran out of eggs at like 8:30 in the morning and you just wanted some eggs. But guess what? We don't have eggs. All we have is these damn Texas waffle things that were still pretty good, but I just wanted some eggs. But yeah, I think like setting yourself up for that. And also bring some snacks so you're not spending like $20 on like a microwave pizza from the concession stand. Yeah. I've also like the last couple of regionals, I've noticed people like running to their tables because they didn't hear the round announcement at concessions. So like like every regional, every time we get into wherever we're at, I'll hit a Walgreens or I'll hit a CVS or some kind of convenience store. I'll get some beef jerky, maybe a Gatorade, some Monsters if you want. Like figure out what you need to be successful. Like everyone doing this, like 95% of Pokemon players and masters you're adults. Like, what you need. Like you're spending, $70 on registration, probably $100 at least on a hotel, however much on transportation to get to the venue. Food that weekend, like spend an extra $20 and go to a CVS and, get some jerky. I'm a big fan of beef jerky just because like it tastes good and it's like, it's a good source of protein, gives you some good energy. But yeah. I mean, Thad, like what's your go-to like mid-regional snack?
trail mix. It's so good. I mean,
Trail mix.
I like a dark chocolate trail mix.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
You get a little bit of everything in there. Some antioxidants, some protein, and then I mean, I try to stay hydrated as much as possible. So I'll refill my water bottle like 5 or 6 times at the venue.
I mean,
I don't want to get too over caffeinated.
Yeah, like that's definitely something I've noticed with you. Is you'll everywhere you go, you've got a freaking water bottle with you.
Stay hydrated, baby.
Yeah, but I think that I think we've talked about the regional enough. I think it is time to finally close the book on all the drama we saw at San Antonio, all the stupid people. If you're on Twitter, you know exactly what I'm talking about. All the dumb drama, I'm ready to move on from it. I'm ready to move on from the Surging Sparks format, Thad, because we have a new format here. We've had some online tournaments with it. It is officially legal for tournament play this Friday on January 31st. I'm going to a League Cup on Saturday. I don't know if you're going to any League Cups or anything this weekend. All right, I'm gonna guess that was a no. I didn't hear anything.
Oh, I said nah.
Oh yeah, I kind of figured you were working, but I am going to a League Cup. I have 5 wins already, so I'm just here to grinch people's points. It's really weird. Like I find myself in a really weird position with this format, just because I'm not going to any regionals. I think both our next regional is Atlanta in April, and that's actually post rotation. Yeah. That is like the day after rotation, so that'll be honestly a really cool regional to talk about and to plan for as we get closer to that day. But right now we do have some tournament results, some online tournament results here. Shout out as always Justin Basil for doing these tier lists. First place we have Palkia. Second place we got Charizard. Third place Gardevoir. That rounds out the tier 1 decks. In tier 2 we have Drago, Lugia, Terrapagos, Dragapult, and then tier 3 everyone's favorite deck to play against, Snorlax Stall. Is there anything that like stands out to you, Thad, as far as like these top 8 decks in the standard format in the online circuit right now?
No, not particularly. I mean, I play a lot of live. I'm a ladder grinder for sure. I'm almost an Arceus League. I mean, I really haven't been playing that much since I've been prepping for the regional for so long. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I'm not surprised. One of my go-tos right now is Lugia. I have a love-hate relationship with that deck. It is kind of dog water at times.
Yeah.
But right now I think it's well positioned because it's a deck that plays like maybe 10 or 12 items at most.
Sure.
And you're not really reliant on hitting the item cards, and especially with Budew now, full force and format. You're not really slowed down at all. You're reading the wind if you go second. You're actually going to prefer to go second now, so you can read the wind.
Okay.
Your Bolt matchup you kind of just fix at some point, just by throwing on Legacy on a 2-prizer. So, they eventually got to get through 2 1-prizers, so your mapping is a little bit better.
Sure.
So I'm a big fan of it right now. The Terrapagos is a little bit weird to me, because I kind of put Terrapagos and Palkia in the same in my mind.
Yeah, I mean? That is weird. I feel like they've kind of found themselves in this weird transformative archetype where it's like Palkia, but we're also running Terrapagos. So it's like, at what point do we run that distinction? Is it like if there's more Terrapagos than Palkia? Is there some kind of card number of one versus the other? Yeah, so I think they're both kind of in the same vein.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of Terrapagos, I do right now I'm thinking of Terrapagos Palkia because Szymanski just came in second with it at San Antonio. But there is the Terrapagos Dusknoir builds, which are still around, I guess. I don't know if they're really that much better than Palkia Terrapagos, but
Palkia just feels better to me. If it
feels more versatile.
Yeah, it just I feel like it has a higher damage cap. It's a little harder to get out initially. I think you're kind of especially against the big basic decks. I think you kind of like have to like force that Thornton. Because I feel like if you like bench the basic Palkia, they're just gonna full send at it, and like then you're kind of like, do they whiff it? Am I gonna get lucky and they're gonna whiff that basic, or am I gonna have to try and pull a Thornton out? Do I bench 2, which kind of feels bad because I think the deck's only really running 2 Palkias anyway. Yes, there's definitely a lot that Palkia can also do, especially with that with the Star Portal V Star power, just being able to charge up big Palkia attacks. You can also charge up the Greninja attacks, like the 90 on 2 Pokemon can be really detrimental to like a lot of decks, a lot of Guardy decks, a lot of Charizard decks, which are again 2 decks that are pretty highly placed up on this tier list. I mean, they have over a quarter of the meta share together, so like definitely a very impactful attack against most of the meta. I'm personally a little surprised we don't have more control. I'm a firm believer control is such an easy deck to play, especially in like open list limitless events. Like as a deck that relies on exposing your opponent's weaknesses, knowing their weaknesses seems really strong. And like
100%.
I just don't understand how we don't like see that. I don't know. I don't know if it's people just don't want to play the deck. Like get that. That makes 100%. That makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'm like when I'm looking at when I look at the tier list right now, I mean, almost all these decks are setup decks, right? There's no big basics, no Miraidon, no Moon, no Bolt. So I mean, like, is Budew actually putting in the work and really putting the brakes on the format right now? Like, it's possible.
It's possible. I think that's a factor for sure. I think it's also just like Budew works better in those decks, right? Like the entire purpose, at least for me, of Budew is I want to slow you down. I want to buy, I want to buy myself a turn. Whereas like if you're a Bolt, Moon, Miraidon, you're not really trying to do that. Like that's not your game plan. Your game plan is to put my foot on the gas and don't take it off until it says victory. Like that's just really the way you pilot those decks. I think one of the decks that I'm kind of surprised is also as high up as it is Drago. I just kind of thought Drago, the Budew could kind of help neutralize that a little bit. Just to like eliminate like those like turn 2 energy switches, to which can really help set up the Drago doing like their crazy turn 2, like V-Star, grab my Prime Catcher, grab an energy switch. So like by turning off all their items, like you make their life a lot more difficult.
I think it's just a war of attrition, right? Like Drago wants to go first, Budew decks want to go second. So like it just kind of works out. If Drago can just move one, if they can utilize one E switch before the Budew attack comes out, they're kind of chilling. Like they can just get their own attachments, really.
Yeah, I think that's also a really good point, that for sure. Yeah, I think this format will really evolve as we get closer to rotation in about 2 months. So this is actually also a very short format. We only have a 2-month format here. We have basically, Journey Together. I think pre-orders are starting soon already. So like, pre-releases will be in probably about a month or so. So like this format is not very, very long whatsoever. I think we have EUIC in a couple weeks. I think there's a couple regionals, but really not a ton going on with this format. Not really a whole lot that's really going to happen. And also just not that much changes. I think outside of Budew, that's pretty much it. I think some decks might try and utilize Regigigas. I think that's a really powerful attacker, especially in decks like Lugia. Maybe Lost Box makes like a final hurrah if you can avoid Dragos. But I think other than that, this format
yeah, no, it's actually really fascinating because as I look at the upcoming tournament list, we actually have quite a few. You have a regional in Mexico, which I had no idea was happening up until like literally just this very second.
Okay.
Yeah, I had no idea. I just looked at the upcoming and I was like, oh, Mexico. You have the Champions League, which that'll be post rotation. I think it might be worth covering that.
Sure.
Because that'll give us good insight as to what will be good for our first post rotation regional.
Yeah.
You have the SPE Puerto Rico, and then you go into EUIC. Then there's like there's 3 total North American events coming up. You have the regional in Mexico, you have Vancouver, and you have nope, just 2. My bad.
There you go.
Don't know how, Puerto Rico. That's North America.
Puerto Rico, yeah, the SPE. Okay, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that'll be definitely some cool, a lot of Pokemon in this format. Even though like I know like a lot of players aren't really going. I know like the SPEs usually don't get that many players. I think the Lima in Peru, it had around like 500, if that. I think it might have been honestly about 350. So definitely not a ton.
I think it's 3. Yeah, there's not a lot of play left in this format, like we were already talking about, but there are a good amount of events to keep your eyes on. The meta will continue to shift up until about the end of March.
Mm-hmm.
March we have the last event in this format will be in Brisbane, and normally that's a pretty small event. Those Australian regionals, unfortunately, do not gather the crowds. So it's I'm really interested to see, because also the week before our Atlanta regional, there's another Champions League, and just for that'll be a format. That'll be like our actual next format after rotation. They're gonna have access to most of the next set that's coming out for us, which is gonna be fascinating, because they're going to be a whole set in front of us by the time we get to rotation.
For sure. Yeah. Like that is such a weird, it's such a weird thing that like Japan is always so ahead of us. And like, it's kind of nice for us just to kind of see like what archetypes are on the horizon, what people are doing with it. But I think it's also just like, it's kind of annoying in a way, just because like we can't see what's happening until it like shows up. Right.
Yeah. Super annoying, but it's the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's 100% right. It is what it is. It's the way it's been for a long time. It's probably not going anywhere. So it's just a reality of
probably not
playing Pokemon not in the country of Japan.
Feels bad.
Yeah, Thad, do you have anything else you want to add in regards to the prismatic format? Anything you're kind of expecting?
No, I mean, I feel like we covered it all there. I mean, we managed to cover our bases with prismatic. It's just gonna be it's gonna be a weird format. For me personally, I'm not gonna be playing a lot in it. I don't really care for this really extended format time of like, I'm not championship point chasing right now. If I can make it to a cup, sure, I'll go. I'm really looking forward to post rotation, and I'm really excited to get my hands on some GLC, which I'm sure we'll talk about at some point.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's where a lot of players are at with this format, is they don't have a regional. If they're point chasing, they probably have their local finishes already. So they're kind of just like, it's almost like a nice hiatus to where you can just like relax, take a breather, like kind of regain, use this as like a mental break from the game, take a month off and, go do something else. If Pokemon isn't like your entire like life, it's the only thing you really care about, things like that. I think it allows a lot of players kind of a little mini vacation before like that end season kind of grind gets here. Cause once rotation hits, we have a lot of events that we're going to be going through between April, May, and June. I mean, we have Atlanta regionals, we have Madison regionals, we have NAIC in June. We have a regional they haven't even announced yet in North America, which is kind of crazy. And like, I'm really hoping we get that by EUIC. I'm hoping that's kind of like maybe a big announcement we get. Maybe we get some new information on anything. Like, it's just kind of crazy. We just have no idea. And like, this regional in theory is going to happen between early May and middle of June. So like, at some point, we just don't give people enough time to plan. Like, people have jobs, people need to figure out accommodations, travel, especially if you're flying to the regional. Like, I don't know. I think we just need to, like, Pokemon needs to give more chance for players to actually attend the events. And I think we kind of saw that a little bit.
Yeah, a little more runway.
Yeah, like, I know, like, with Baltimore, like, that regional was announced like less than 2 months before, and like, especially locally, even being the first regional of the year, it was really, a lot of people were like, I literally can't attend because I didn't have enough time to plan. Like, I would love to attend this. This is a very drivable regional for me. I know for us in Ohio, it was only like a 6-hour region. It was only like 6 hours to travel. So it would have been really nice to get more people out there. And when we don't give people enough time, these are the situations where, unfortunately,
people don't attend.
People don't attend. There's not as many people, and people just don't have as much fun. So hopefully, we get some information soon. But that is all for us today. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening, for watching. This has been episode 2 of the PokeStop podcast. Make sure y'all leave a like. Let us know what you thought about the episode today. Did you like our advice on the regionals? Did you think we're wrong about the new format going forward? Either way, we appreciate you guys for listening, for watching, and doing all the nice things. Hope y'all have a wonderful day, and we will see y'all next time on the PokeStop podcast. Have a good one.